All right, welcome back to the Cow Guy Close. I'm Scott Shellady, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. And I don't know about you, but I'm having a blast. This is a lot of fun. I hope you're tuning in on a daily basis because it's going to get better even from here. All right, let's talk about oil. With that oil near 90 bucks a barrel, what is that going to do to the American consumer, right? It hurts. Consumer prices have been rising. Americans have gone through a lot, and a lot of cash as well. Reports say that their cash is dwindling. I say the economy is okay but fragile, and I can't handle 5 rate hikes, which most folks are talking about right now. Let's bring in our next guest to hear his expert opinion. Please welcome to the show, Bill Baruch with Blue Line Futures out of balmy Chicago. There's a lot of B's in that sentence. Bill, thanks for joining the show. All right, let me set the table for you, and then you can knock them all down. I think that the economy is fragile, although we show some okay numbers. I don't think that runs that deep, though, and here's where I stand. I don't think that the Fed, as political as they are, I think now, has the, I don't know what to say, the cojones to suffer through a downturn or some sort of impending recession if they start tightening on a market that already sees the cash in the consumer's pocket dwindling because they're paying so much more in inflationary items anyway. I mean, I could go through a litany of things that is causing a lot of strain at that consumer level, and now they're going to be raising rates. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. What do you think?
Yeah, the consumer is exhausted. I think that's something that began shortly after Thanksgiving. I don't think we're going to see 5 rate hikes though. And listen, I've never been a critic of the Fed. I did say, last year that they really could have got this taper underway in August, and it would have put them on, on a better path. I mean, we can nitpick with them all day, and I mean, the inflation is there, and they ignored it for too long, and they're gonna have a tough time, battling it, and it could be something that's going to be persistent for years to come. But with all of that said, the fact that we've seen these rate hikes being priced in now is sort of soft landing in itself for now. I don't think they're going to be able to stop inflation really, but I do think that what they do have going for them is the higher base numbers to compare against. So I think while the consumer and the mom and pop may start to suffer and the economy is going to slow due to the tightening, I think that we could see a light into the tunnel at the second half of this year because the Fed is just simply not going to be able to tighten at the pace that's already being priced in.
I mean, I find it very difficult that they're going to be able to do that. I respect them like you do. I disagree with them almost all the time. I get worried if I do agree with them. That's how much I disagree with them. But look, no one's going to mistake me for a ballerina because you can tell that I used to play college football. But I tell you, it just reminds me over and over again, and maybe I said this to you the last time you were on the show, that coach can sit up there for an hour and diagram plays out with the X's and O's, right? And then my best coach I ever had said, all right, go guys, go get them. But he had to remind us on the way out the door of the locker room, oh, by the way, the other team moves too. They're not going to be standing where I had them on the board when we were talking about all these plays. And I think sometimes the Fed loses that a little bit where they're very, very academic and you can see how they come to their conclusions and you actually would agree how they came to their conclusions. But the market's dynamic and it changes and things happen. And it just seems to me that they're not very elastic. And that's something I'm concerned about. So you could see a scenario here. I'd like you to spin this for me, will you, Bill? They do an okay job with inflation. Say they drive it down to 4.5. All right, but at the expense of jobs. What if you see a 5% unemployment rate? I mean, now, okay, we've got unemployment down, but the job we've at the expense of a lot of jobs. That could be a scenario that they would have trouble with.
Yeah, it's good. It's going to be a very tough balancing act. And you said it, they are academics. And that's the thing, you've seen these dot plots, this great dot plot over the years.
Bill.
They've never, ever lived up to the dot plot. And that's basically what we're starting to see is the dot plot, put it out there. And then on top of that, you got these, the banks, these guys running the banks. I mean, I'm talking from all levels. I remember Jamie Dimon. I brought this up to you, I think, in one of the previous shows back in 2018, calling for 5% 10-year. I mean, these people at the banks expect higher rates because that's how they make their money. And so now you have the tailwind for the banks talking it up, you have the Fed talking it up. The reality is markets are more efficient than ever, and markets are very fast to price things in, and it's already priced in. So I think that everything. Maybe the Fed knows this behind the scenes. Maybe they know all this, and they're going to bring us, sort of a softer landing on their tightening than we think. But that doesn't change the fact that inflation is not going anywhere. It's not the Fed's fault that inflation is really there,
No.
because the driver of inflation is going to be the housing prices that start to start to percolate through the metrics that aren't really in there quite yet, and then of course energy. And crude oil, it's just going to keep going higher because it's not the Fed's fault that crude oil is going higher. It's Washington's fault and its policy around the world.
All right, so throw out my dumb idea that they have a lower inflation rate and higher unemployment rate. That's one idea. But how about the other one? Well, we see this crude oil continue to march forward, 95, 100, 105. I mean, I heard a guy this morning on the radio coming in saying 130. What if they're raising interest rates into the teeth of a rising oil market? And look, you just said it. Most of this inflation is food and fuel based. I sit here in this studio every day talking about food and how expensive it is, and also how expensive crude oil is. We could have a scenario where these rate hikes, I'm not going to say canceled out, it's probably too strong, but are severely diminished by higher food and fuel costs.
Yeah, that's what we're going to see. The inflation's going to hurt, or the rate hikes are going to hurt mom and pop, so to speak, because it's going to slow the economy. And it's going to continue to slow the movement of money, but it doesn't mean that oil is going to slow. I mean, oil, I think, will continue higher, and that's going to put further pressure on the consumer. Now, I mean, again, with all that said, when the Fed lifts their foot off the gas, whenever I wouldn't be surprised at this point if we get 50 basis points in March. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very confident we'll see 50, maybe 75 by May, and then 75 by June. We're not going to see anything past June because the economy will slow, and I think they're going to rein in what they can. But right. That's what the light, to me, at the light of the end of the tunnel is. Now it's just a matter of where do energy prices get to June, because they're going to be much higher than this by May and June with current policies.
I just hate the idea we're going to try to take surgically take out inflation. At the cost of mom and pop across the country who had nothing to do with our energy policy or flooding the world with money. So that's what disappoints me. All right, thanks very much, Bill. That's awesome stuff. Bill Baruch from Blue Line Futures in Chicago. All right, when we're looking at the markets, or when I'm looking at the markets, actually, I have my go-tos. That's gold, oil, the 10-year yield, and the U.S. dollar. Let's check in with those right now. Let's start off with gold. Up $5, but we're at that upper end, 1826, right? We talk about 1750 to 1850. We're closing in on that 1850 mark. We'll have to keep an eye on that because that's telling me things are nervous. All right, let's take a look at the next one we look at, which is crude. We just had that up on the screen, hanging around that $90 a barrel, just underneath at 89.85. That's going to be the thorn in the side of the Fed here, folks, coming up. How about the U.S. dollar? Well, it got a little stronger today. We'll see what 10-year yield did just in a second, but that would say the 10-year yield might have gotten a little stronger today. We're at 95.5, making a move back up to the 96 level. And look at that. Boy, oh boy, like magic, right? Here's what I made for you earlier, 1.96 in that 10-year yield. That dollar got stronger on the back of that. So the market is getting more comfortable, the equity market at least, with higher interest rates. It's interesting to see that. All right. Coming up, tomorrow's the WASD Wednesday. We've been talking about that. The markets have been shopping around ahead of it. Tommy Garsafi with Advanced Trading is here to share his thoughts and insights on what to expect. You're watching the Cow Guy Close on RFD TV. We'll be right back after these messages.